Sorry about that. The earlier video was interrupted for technical reason. Now, so to continue with what I was talking about, that the knowledge and the customs, so the customs preserve the knowledge. When you're talking about custom preserving knowledge, the knowledge is also preserved in art. So there's an interaction between the custom and art, between the knowledge and belief. So all of this, they all interact with one another. Okay, so they are interacting with one another. So it's this is why it's so complex and so difficult for people to change culture, because it's ingrained in us. But for you to change, you need to understand that it's going on. So that's why I'm trying to show that it's going on. So there are certain things that you believe that forces you to have certain morals. There are certain things that you believe that informs what your knowledge, how far your knowledge can go. Because sometimes the things that you believe, will stop you from acquiring certain knowledge. They will become a barrier from certain information coming into you and becoming knowledge. The philosopher would say that a knowledge is called JTB. It's justified, it's true, and you believe it. That's the traditional definition of knowledge. It's justified, it's true, and you believe it. So to deconstruct a culture, you need to break that culture down into all of these parts, and then begin to change the various elements with this. This is why I think the people who should do this work of deconstructing are the academics, the African academics, I'm not talking about the academics who are non-African, who are expert in African studies. They cannot do it because they will only do it as for themselves, as they would do it if they were Africans. So this work needs to be done by African intellectuals now, or African academics, so that they can create the narrative, the framework, so that the discussions can happen, But the problem that we have today is the very people that you expect to construct the framework are the very people who want to maintain the status quo. And unless our culture develops, unless we change our culture from survival culture to development culture, we are not going to get anywhere. Now, someone did say to me that our cultural heritage is important and it's sacred, that we cannot touch it, and that if a river forgets its source, these are some of the things that I find sometimes frustrating, in the sense that the very thing that I'm asking you to look into, to change, you're then using the same philosophy to answer back. That tells me that you don't get my point. I'm saying yes, there are very clever adages and proverbs and sayings in the African culture, but what I'm saying is that we need to challenge these things. I'm not saying that we should throw away our culture. We need to challenge it, to upgrade it. If you look at an operating system, if you want to upgrade an operating system, you don't throw the operating system away completely. What you do is you look at various functions, various modules within the operating system, and you make them better, or you add new functions into the operating system. So if you move from Windows 8 to Windows 10, there are new things that you can do, but you are still able to do the old things. So I'm not asking, but there are some old things that it's no longer necessary for you to do. That's what I'm saying. We need to look at our culture, and we need to be brave enough. Brave enough. This is going to take a lot of bravery, and we have to be brave enough to look at the beliefs, the morals, and the knowledge, and then look at the expressions, the laws, the arts, the customs. You know, when most people say leave our culture alone, they're talking mostly about the custom. They don't even remember the art. They don't remember the laws, and they're talking about purely the custom. And that is really the problem. We need to look at the whole, not just one aspect. So to fix the culture, you need to look at all of these modules, and tweak. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you throw away African culture. Tweak it for the 21st century. For heaven's sake, let's tweak the culture for this century. Most of the culture that we're using were perfect for the 12th century. But today, we will not move from where we are. And the problem is, if you don't move from where you are, others are moving forward. Therefore, the distance between us and them is constantly increasing. One thing that I've also noticed is that once we begin to move, once we begin to move forward, once we begin to develop the culture, you'll find that, you know, people will join you. I don't care what you say. Nobody discriminates against, you know, progress, a culture, progressing culture, against talent. You know, you don't discriminate against it. Then the other thing we will do is that we're going to then be able to present anything that it's been, just like this Mercedes, BMW, when they bring in new models, right? They have in their museum the old ones. They don't throw them away because they know that there's lesson to be learned from those. And guess what? That's why you have areas that you can put your culture, you know, the things like museums. Okay? You have drama. Okay? You have art. You have music. Right? You have writing. Right? And you have so many ways to preserve your culture, but you don't have to leave it to preserve it. No, you don't have to leave it to preserve it. And that's my argument. We need to stop living in the 21st century with the culture of the 12th century. Thank you very much. Chris Araga, Radiscussion.